With great pleasure and honor that I welcome the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, the Chief Executive of Parastatals under the Ministry of Justice, and all of us here today to the Budget Defense Exercise for 2022 fiscal year. The Honorable Minister will recall that by this time last year, 2020, the same exercise was conducted wherein approval was given to your ministry and its parastatals to undertake expenditures on the various expenditure heads as proposed for 2021 fiscal year. Given the approval contained in the 2021 Appropriation Act, and in order to do justice to the Ministry of Justice, I feel it is just and equitable to review the activities of the ministry vis-a-vis the 2021 budget performance in order to have a foundation for the consideration of 2022 proposals before the committee. The Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, you are aware that the exercise for which we are here to undertake is a constitutional requirement in which Mr. President has discharged his own part of the obligation as provided by Section 81 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, whereof the Constitution requires Mr. President to lay the appropriation bill before the National Assembly. The action of Mr. President in the presentation of the budget before the National Assembly marked the beginning of the legislative journey of the 2022 Appropriation Bill, for which this committee is an active participant in ensuring a smooth sail of the process. Section 80 of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended charged the National Assembly to scrutinize the appropriation bill and pass them as deemed appropriate. Equally of note is the powers of the National Assembly as provided in Section 88 of the 1999 Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, and the imperativeness of appraising the performance of the 2021 allocation as contained in the 2021 Appropriation Act. The combined effect of the Section 80 and 88 of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended has guaranteed the National Assembly, and by extension, this committee, to appraise the various allocations this ministry and use them as preserved for the consideration of the 2022 Appropriation Bill. In view of the foregoing, the committee is expecting your presentation in this budget defense exercise to give a detailed report of the 2021 budget performance and thereafter lay a proper foundation for the presentation of the 2022 appropriation estimates. The Honorable Minister and the executives here present, the business of today is that of the 2022 budget defense. Therefore, I wish to open the floor so we can start the business in earnest. Be reminded once more that the business of government cannot be run in a vacuum, and budget approval is very critical to good governance thereof. This exercise should be given the necessary importance that it deserves as we solicit your maximum cooperation and total disclosure of all materials facts. On behalf of my highly respected colleagues, I wish to thank you again for coming, as the Honorable Minister is hereby invited to present the budget of the Federal Ministry of Justice for 2022 fiscal year. Thank you.
And heartwarming for me and my team from the justice sector to make concise and wholesale presentations on 2022 budget defense of our statutory activities to this honorable committee. I wish to thank you immensely for your diligent and unwavering long-standing support for the justice sector. Your solid support has galvanized our operations in more ways than one, for which we appreciate and shall always take you into confidence in our collective quest to deepen the rule of law and entrench a maturing democracy. The rule of law, as practiced all over the world, is the fiber upon which democracy revolves. The justice sector, as presently constituted, is bedeviled by funding inadequacies too much for our comfort. The prime drivers of any given maturing democracy such as ours are the rule of law, due process of the law, human rights, international obligations, and allied matters. Evidence reveals that administration of justice, which guarantees sustainable peace, equity, and fair play, is undeniably capital intensive. In the circumstances, we need to reconceptualize the existing funding pattern of the justice sector. Lamentably, however, practically all the parastatals under the purview of the Federal Ministry of Justice that are here today are in their need of funding. For me, this is as dangerous as it is disturbing, because funding gaps in the face of competing challenges will endanger effective administration of justice and cause unwarranted travesty of justice. True enough, the justice sector is not primarily a revenue-generating subsector. This is because our constitutional obligations revolve around social services geared towards a peaceful, cohesive, and prosperous Nigeria. As a subsector, our revenue derives essentially from our constitutional role, from our constitutional activities and returns such as value-added tax, withholding tax, stamp duties, returns on DTA, certified true copies, earnings from use of government halls, tenders fees, earnings from sales of government unserviceable vehicles, sales of law books, journals, and rent of government properties, inclusive, of course, of the recovery of looted assets. However, the ministry was mandated to embark on the recovery of looted assets, and we have recorded appreciable milestones in this regard, as monies recovered are promptly deposited into the government treasury, thereby increasing the revenue profile of the government. And I'm equally happy to report that such monies as recovered being looted assets are equally channeled in the servicing of the national budget and accordingly appropriated by the National Assembly. Presently, we are making efforts to ensure that we are allocated some cost of collection from recovered funds to finance our recovery operations, in view of the fact that, notwithstanding the billions being recovered by the Federal Ministry of Justice, not a kobo provision is made as a cost of collection. To date, there are large sums of illicit money stashed abroad, for which we are working at close quarters with ICPC and EFCC as defendable allies to effect recovery of same. The ministry handles public prosecution and civil litigations for the Federation, and sometimes outsource these services, particularly as it relates to international prosecutions where state councils have legal limitations as it relates to appearances in foreign jurisdictions. We all know that legal services, especially litigations, are not cheap. Furthermore, the justice sector reforms we are currently undertaking are costly to execute. We therefore need your kind support with adequate funding to successfully prosecute them. To prevent reoccurrence of a case similar to fee and ID, Council directed the Attorney General of the Federation to present a memo for the establishment of the Federal Task Force to review and validate contracts, judgments, and arbitral awards and implement the federal government verification system to prevent abuses similar to the fee and ID case. Council directed the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to incorporate the funding requirements of the Federal Contract Administration System in Nigeria in the Federal Ministry of Justice 2022 budget proposal. The capital and overhead components of FCAS are therefore incorporated in the budget accordingly in line with the directives of the Federal Executive Council. As 2022 becomes, I am looking forward to a more repression feeling of common bond between the justice sector and all the honorable members of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for a seamless administration of justice in Nigeria. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, the Deputy Chairman, and distinguished honorable members, the year 2021 is rolling to an end, and I can state without mincing words that the year is rife with fair and unfair challenges arising from competing needs and demands, especially given the unending COVID-19 pandemic, kidnapping, and armed banditry challenges, among others. In the face of scarce but allocated resources, and granted the fact that the justice sector superintends over the rule of law, it is hereby reasoned that we should reconceptualize the justice architecture in tandem with the vital role of justice delivery and administration in a heterogeneous society such as ours. If we are to crystallize our democracy firmly, it is incumbent on us to build a bridge across justice, covering a broad spectrum of activities because of our plural composition and divergent views on national issues. The year 2022, Mr. Chairman, Deputy Chairman, and honorable members, is another defining moment in the annals of our history. In any event, the Federal Ministry of Justice shall do its level best at ensuring that the nuances of politics do not compromise our justice dispensation. We need your support, Mr. Chairman, Deputy Chairman, and distinguished honorable members of the committee, with adequate funding to achieve this feat. It is on this note, Mr. Chairman, that I will proceed on the presentation of the 2022 budget proposal and performance report as it relates to the previous year. Mr. Chairman, the Federal Ministry of Justice presents a budget in 2021 which was appropriated, and I present a review of the 2021 budget for your consideration. A total of 7,720,778,359 was appropriated in the preceding year, in the year 2021. And the component of such appropriation, Mr. Chairman, includes the following. I am on page 1 of the budget presentation, Mr. Chairman, for guidance. Roman 1 on personnel costs, 2,852,966,007 naira 0 kobo was appropriated. Roman 2, on overhead cost, excluding legal services, 996,326,967 naira 0 kobo was appropriated. Roman 3, on legal services, 2,514,608 naira was appropriated. Capital, which is Roman 4, 1,870,970,780 naira was appropriated. Mr. Chairman, that brings the total to 7,720,778,359 naira 0 kobo has been appropriated for the year under review 2021 budget. Your Excellency, on the personnel cost has been Roman 1. I provided as items A, so Roman 1 and 2, the information associated with such expenditure. What was appropriated, as I stated, was 2.8. On salaries and wages, Your Excellency, the Chairman, what was indeed salaries and wages, which is under the control and disbursement by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and not the Federal Ministry of Justice, through the Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System platform, and it includes payment of peculiar allowances of state councils in the Ministry of Justice and the peculiar allowances, which is essentially designed to service the harmonized salary structure for state council. This amount of 2.8 billion was indeed expended on personnel costs. Non-regular allowances, what was expended is appropriated was 101,340,000. This amount was allocated for the payment of peculiar allowances of State Council of the Ministry posted to the Gambia. This amount has been released by the Federal Ministry of Finance for disbursement by the Ministry of Justice. On the overhead cost, which is reflected as item B, out of the total sum of 2,996,841,572 appropriation for the main ministry's overhead cost operations in 2021 financial year, the total sum of 2.2 billion naira has been released as of 30th September 2021, which represents 75% of the appropriation for overhead cost expenditure. On the capital expenditure, Mr. Chairman, from the appropriated sum of 1.8 billion for capital cost expenditure, the sum of 1.5 has been released. This appropriated amount was to cover the following capital projects as contained in 2021. The capital projects, Mr. Chairman, are listed in the table at page 2. On the revenue, Mr. Chairman, Deputy Chairman, honorable members, as you are aware, the Federal Ministry of Justice is not primarily a higher revenue generating agency. Nevertheless, the sum of 40,119,665 naira 0.87 kobo was generated as of 30 September 2021 from various revenue sources as indicated on table 2 hereby attached as Appendix B. But let me state at this juncture, Mr. Chairman, that these are simply internally generated revenues devoid of the recoveries made in terms of looted assets, which recovery, I am sure you are aware, runs into billions of naira, taking into consideration one of the components of which over 300 million was recently, 311 million precisely, was recovered. Yes, was recovered from US, UK, and Jersey Island. Mr. Chairman, I now proceed with the budget submissions for the year 2022. The ministry submitted a budget proposal of the sum of 11 billion
Honorable Attorney General, I think after this is normal that members will ask questions.
I want to find out in this 2021 budget of their salary and the wages, which is up to almost about 2-point-something billion, did the ministry had any recruitment in 2021?
Honorable Attorney General, I have gone through and I listened to your opening remark. As beautiful as this opening remark is, I observed with great reservation that an event that took place that shook the very foundation of our democracy, the NSAS protests, was never mentioned at all in your opening remark. And I feel that this is an event that should take, the front burner in the issue of justice, rule of law, and our very democracy. And Honorable Attorney General, I want to ask about this, the proposed anti-torture legislation. Because, of course, you will remember that most of the protest is based on the misdemeanor, an abuse of office by some of our police officers. And one will expect that you'll do something about this anti-torture legislation. I want to find out if the legislation is now in place. And if it has not been put in place, what is the ministry doing about putting it in place? And also, I think around 2017, you promised us a national anti-torture policy by the government. We want to find out how far you have gone with that anti-torture policy, sir. Mr. Chairman, sir, I saw a sum of 49.3 million appropriated for local training courses in your 2021 budget. 35.5 have been released, 32.1 have been expended. And still, despite this training for our lawyers in the ministry, we still see that a lot of the jobs are outsourced to lawyers. Of course, we spent 2.05 billion for legal services. And in your speech, you mentioned some limitations about lawyers not being able to take up those jobs. And I want you to be clear with us. What are these limitations that the councils in the ministry have that will not allow them to appear in some courts, so that we can address those limitations? Mr. Chairman, Honorable Minister, sir, in your 2021 capital budget performance, Appendix C, Appendix 6, the prosecution of number 4 there, prosecution of prison suspects and the congestion of correctional centers nationwide. There is no doubt about the fact that most of our prisons are overpopulated and there is need for this kind of exercise. The ministry has spent 70% of what was appropriated, 175 million. And I just want to know the kind of metrics that we can use to verify what you have done so far. From January to now, how many people have been taken out from prisons, by reason of this exercise? And how many convictions have we had by the reason of this decongestion exercise? We also have prosecution of maritime and offshore offenses, costing the ministry a whooping sum of 145 million naira. And I just want to ask that, what impact has this expenditure had on offshore offenses? And basically, like I've mentioned before, are there no, lawyers who are versed in maritime law in the ministry, that we have to still outsource all of this job to lawyers? Those are my questions, Honorable Minister.
Chairman, so I can take my
Okay.
protocols. And adjunct to, my name is Cmtee. Please, can I have a official contact with the Honorable Minister? My name is Cmtee, PhD. I represent Port Harcourt. Honorable Minister, there are trending issues in the Nigerian polity today, and one of these is the payment of consultancy with issue of Paris Club. And the whooping sum in the region of $400 to $520 million is being paid. I'm sure you will add volume to that. 2, in paragraph 7, page 3 of your address, you made reference to issues of recovery of looted assets. If I juxtapose that with number 6 of the table presented, where 250 million was proposed, and as it were, percentage release 59.24%, almost 60%, and utilization 100%. How do we reconcile the fact that in your address we are saying that no money, while in performance you have used, the ministry have used, not you sir, not you, let me not personalize it, the ministry have used nearly 150 million. 3, Honorable Minister, I also think that with the successes recorded in recovery of loot, Nigeria needs to know what have been recorded from who, what have been recovered, where they are, because there has been controversy over where they are domiciled, EFCC, ICPC, the ministry. So Nigeria needs to know, and this is the ample opportunity that Nigerians can at least know where these things are. And if they return to state, at what point? Because even in the consolidated revenue fund, I'm sure these assets are not recorded as having come in, unless you. Okay, hey, that's good. Good, yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Well, let's take it from there. We'll continue.
You believe with me that the Honorable Attorney General have been with us in the National Assembly since 9 o'clock. They've engaged with the Senate today, and he's here with us. Having ruled on that, we have the budget estimate for 2022. It's after this presentation that we'll go back to look at it. So if there's any further questions we have, then we can put together on the letter they were invited there.
Honorable members, I now, with the permission of the chairman, proceed on the budget submissions for 2022. The ministry submitted a budget proposal of the sum of 446,099 naira, 0 kobo, for the 2022 financial year. The breakdown consists of the following, Mr. Chairman. Roman 1, personnel cost 3,970,581,732 naira, 0 kobo. Roman 2, overhead cost exclusive of legal services 2,401,427,464 naira, 0 kobo. Legal services, Roman 3, legal services 2,514,608 naira, 0 kobo. Capital 3,510,922,295 naira, which brings the total of submission for the year 2022 to 11,820,446,099 naira, 0 kobo. Your Excellency, by way of elaboration on personnel, the sum of 3,907,581,732 naira was proposed for personnel cost for year 2022, and it is for the payment of approved harmonized salary structure for State Council and other staff salary and allowances, including lawyers serving in the Gambia. On item B, which is overhead cost proposal, the sum of 4,401,942,072 kobo was proposed to pay ministries, legal services, and other operational costs as shown in the appropriation bill, such as civil litigation, overhead component of the establishment of federal task force and development of federal contract administration system in Nigeria, general administration, among others. Item C is capital expenditure proposal. The total sum of 3,510,922,295 naira, 0 kobo was proposed as 2022 capital cost, meant to procure and service the underlisted items. Among them, item 1 is prosecution of prison inmates, maritime, offshore offenses, Boko Haram suspects, offenders of government recovered assets, and improving asset recovery and monitoring. And that component has 308,647,146. Law and development 120 million. Document digitization, data entry, storages and archiving 314. Administration of criminal justice reform and monitoring 479 million. International cooperation and diplomacy, international comparative law 203 million. Establishment of a federal task force, development of a federal contract administration system in Nigeria 1,101,000,000. Citizens' rights, sexual, gender-based violence response, and torture reduction, 95 million. Press and publications, library, law books, journals, and archives, 90 million. Information and communications technology, 294,271,384. Coordination of Federal Ministry of Justice activities, 504, and this brings the total capital expenditure to 3,510,932,295 kobo. However, the Federal Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning presented the sum of 6,863,591 naira against our capital proposal of 3.5 billion, resulting in a shortfall in the sum of 504 million. The shortfall represents a consolidated project starting coordination of Federal Ministry of Justice activities with a code ERPG 30178008 in the sum of 504 million, which consists of the following. The items that are affected by the shortfalls are listed: renovation of the Federal Ministry of Justice headquarters building, purchase of medical facilities and equipment, annual procurement implementation plan, maintenance of directional signage and remodeling of ministry's reception, monitoring and evaluation of ministry and 7 parastatals project programs, human capacity building program, which in effect implies that the purchase of medical facilities and equipment, inclusive of capacity building, are affected, arising from the shortfall. Honorable members, we urge you to consider the inclusion of the project above in the sum of 504 million in our 2022 capital budget accordingly. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, Deputy Chairman, and honorable members, having taken inventory and presented our budget for the year 2022 fiscal year, I can safely submit that our efforts are in tandem with the parameters and statutory guidelines. In the light of foregoing, may I humbly invite the honorable members of this committee to consider and approve our modest 2022 budget of 11,820,446 naira, 9 kobo, please. The members, the heads of respective agencies, parastatals under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Justice are here before you, Mr. Chairman, and I urge you to consider at the appropriate time inviting them to present their respective budgets for the consideration of the committee. I thank committee I thank the committee for according me an opportunity to make this presentation this afternoon.
They've engaged with the Senate today and is here with us. Having ruled on that, we have the budget estimate for 2022. It's after this presentation that we'll go back to look at it. So if there's any further questions we have, then we cannot put together on the letter that we're inviting them. So I think we should be taking Nigerian Law School now, Council of Legal Education.
Why the Honorable Minister?
Why the Honorable Minister can take his leave.